The experience of watching The Lighthouse can only be described as similar to witnessing a nightmare or vivid dream play out in real time. Somehow, the movie fully immerses the viewer into its world and subjects them to the same horror that its characters, Winslow and Wake, live through. Every aspect of its production was carefully crafted for this purpose. The primitive filmmaking techniques and medium, the isolated island setting, the conflict between what is real and what isn't, and evolution of the relationship between the primary characters all work together to create an experience that can only be described as a prolonged nightmare. The old filmmaking techniques utilized in its production achieve a strange and surreal quality conveyed in every dreary and dark scene. The black and white saturation, the heavy film grain, the 1:19:1 aspect ratio, and the muffled audio all work together to deliver a world that resembles less a movie production and something more along the lines of a staged play. The merger of these primitive filming conventions and the film's fantastical and supernatural imagery create something raw and visceral, something that is unattainable in full color in HD. I don't know how to explain it. I don't think it can really be conveyed with just words. Take the movie's first dream sequence. Our main character, Winslow, emerges from the house to walk out to the Black Sea, where he witnesses a procession of floating logs that part in a symmetrical pattern to reveal a corpse. Winslow is drawn by a trance into the waters, where a wailing siren takes notice of him. This entire sequence only works because of its medium. The harsh black shadows obscure everything except the waters directly in front of him, which leaves the majority of the screen hidden in darkness. The box-like aspect ratio feels oppressive, as the viewer is unable to see beyond the enclosing black walls to witness what is lurking in the depths. The grain further distorts the clarity of the scene. It's essentially the Bigfoot footage theory, which is something I just made up. Basically, Bigfoot only looks legit when he's in a poorly taken video or something extremely low resolution, because obscuring the viewer's vision of the monster somehow lends credibility towards it being real. Like the fact that you really can't see it well means there's always a chance it could be legit. And this principle aids the movie well. You can only see what is immediately in view, which induces a feeling that something is always close by, just out of sight. Beyond that though, the black and white footage strongly emphasizes form and shape. It's amazing how strange and foreign a lot of normal looking household equipment and machinery looks, when all that we see of it is mostly light and shadow. Even the texture of glass or the swirling foam on water has a mesmerizing quality to it, something that is only possible because of the film's stylistic choices. But the striking aesthetic alone is not enough to deliver a nightmare. The movie's setting on a small, lonely island lost somewhere in the ocean feels its dreamlike quality by making the story feel completely cut off from the real world. At first, exploring the small island landscape and the various rooms of the keeper's house is kind of enjoyable. The movie spends a considerable amount of time on Winslow's daily routine and his travels around his new home while completing his various tasks. But the days go on, and we are shown Winslow's daily work again and again and again, until the monotony begins to feel truly grueling to sit through and watch. This total and absolute disconnection from the outside world creates a feeling that this whole island location may not even be a part of the world. But it's only after the storm arrives that the island shows its true card. The storm blocks the ship that is supposed to pick Winslow up from his month-long shift, and now Winslow is trapped indefinitely with Wake, all the while the supernatural and bizarre continue to invade his mind. The true horror of the later half of the movie is the total grip the island has over Winslow. There is literally no possible escape from the ensuing hell he experiences on the island. There is no option to get away. But the factors feeding into the nightmarish quality of the movie don't end there. As a horror movie, it's kind of a given that there will probably be a presence of the supernatural. But unlike most horror films where the paranormal events take place and then the characters are forced to confront them as reality, The Lighthouse instead throws its viewers into a guessing game as to whether the paranormal is actually taking place. Even from the very start, the movie takes intentional steps to let the audience know they can't trust anything they see. A lonely lighthouse fades into view as a blaring foghorn from somewhere far off repeats over and over again. but the characters on screen don't seem to notice or acknowledge the sound. Now the audience is wondering if the foghorn is something the characters can hear, or if it's purely symbolic. And already in the first 10 seconds or so, this movie is making you question whether what you're seeing is actually happening or not. And that lack of confidence in what is real and what isn't only further dissipates as the movie strays deeper into the dream sequences. At first, the visions and supernatural events only occur at night, and are implied to be dreams, as the scenes following typically start with Winslow waking up, even though the dream sequences begin with him getting out of bed. But then the line between day and night becomes blurry. Scenes at night are abruptly cut off by those in full daylight, and the supernatural invades the light hours, so the normalcy of the daily routine is thrown into confusion. But again, the supernatural is always in conjunction with a physical, visible trait, the storm. Eventually, Winslow submits to drinking, which degrades him into a state of drunkenness for the rest of the film, at which point everything that occurs around him begins to submit to his failing sanity. Even time itself is called into question, as Wake claims that the amount of time that has passed has indeed not been that long, even though we've witnessed a lengthy period of time take place. Without an outside world to reference this statement against, it feels hard to disprove its validity. Events that we clearly witness on screen are told to us as happening differently, and there's no way to confirm which narrative is true, even though it seems like it should be obvious. And then finally, the relationship between the two central characters of Winslow, the temporary keeper, and Wake, the lighthouse master, is what truly makes for the movie's madness. The relationship evolves, starting out with Winslow putting up with Wake's disagreeable characteristics and remaining very closed off about his past, while Wake also has a variety of strange behaviors and a strong mystery about him as well. But as time goes on, the two open up to each other, and as they do, they grow closer and further apart at the same time. Winslow's obsession with the lighthouse grows, and his curiosity at what it might be develops into a corrosive jealousy that leads him to hate his companion. As the men get drunk together, they go from fistfights to cuddling in a matter of moments. Eventually, the truth is revealed that both men are hiding dark secrets, which prompts the conflict between them to finally boil over. Whatever stability the evening dinners once provided Winslow from the supernatural onslaught is then completely gone. Once the only remaining piece of reality that can be trusted within the island's whirlwind of insanity, that being Winslow's relationship to Wake, is severed and broken, then the movie fully submits to complete disorder. But what's the point of all of this? What's actually causing this madness to occur anyway? Is The Lighthouse simply a story about a man going out to sea and losing his sanity in isolation? Or is there something more going on? It may seem obvious, but The Lighthouse is a movie packed full of symbolism and references to Greek mythology that build a subtextual narrative underneath its surface plot. What that hidden narrative is up to debate. Theory after theory after theory has been thrown from viewers trying to explain what they think it means, and every one of them seems to be just as valid. Some theories hold that the entire conflict between Winslow and Wake is circular, an age-old conflict that is bound to infinitely repeat itself. Others say that the whole story is a modern retelling of the tale of Prometheus and Proteus. Others still hold that the lighthouse is a place of hell or purgatory, punishing Winslow for his crimes while living. Certainly, there is validity in all of these, as there is in many more. But one thing is clear. The Lighthouse is a movie that drops a lot of hints, a lot of clues towards what it all might mean. A lot of them certainly don't make a lot of sense immediately, but it's only until the final scene that everything is drawn together and all of the strange and bizarre imagery you've seen up until then is suddenly cast in a new light. And then the movie almost demands that you sit through it all again with new eyes that can reinterpret the things that just stuck out as weird the first time. On an ending note, I think it's important to say I don't demand every horror movie to be like this. Not every movie needs to have 5 different layers of meaning and a million interpretations in order to be deep or meaningful, but I can appreciate it when it's well done, and The Lighthouse is certainly a very intentionally crafted, well-made nightmare.